Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Mark Ronich, and I run statewide news service and a website called jbiztechvalley.com, and I'm a columnist in the weekly newspaper, The Jewish Press. And Rabbi Simon, who often co-hosts with me, is on assignment. He's out of town, so I'm taking over the reins today. We have a very special show for you today. We have two brothers who serve at the same time in the Albany County Legislature. I think it's the first time that's ever happened. Ray Joyce and Andrew Joyce. Welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And is it the first time that two brothers served at the same time?
Two that I can think of, yeah.
So you are the oldest and you're the youngest
Yes.
of 5 children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a political dynasty in Albany. I mean, because your father and your uncle were both prominent members in the political scene going back probably 80 years now, or 70 years.
Yeah, 70 years to be exact. We have, I've been on the legislature since 2004, and Andrew was just sworn in this past January for his first term. Andrew was sworn in on the anniversary, the 70th anniversary of Joyce continuously serving in the county legislature. So my grandfather had served on the Board of Supervisors for 35 plus years, and my father after him for 35 plus years, and I followed, filling my father's seat, and Andrew joins us now, so.
Wow, you must be really proud, the both of you.
I'm incredibly proud. It's a different day, different time, but you try to hang on to those values that were established by our grandfather and the people that came before us as much as you can.
Now, what was your grandfather's name?
Raymond Sr.
Ray Sr., and your father's Harold L. Joyce, the county office building's named after him.
Yes.
So, but your uncle was also involved in...
Ray Joyce Jr. was the city
Right.
treasurer under Corning and Whalen for 30 plus years as well.
Right, and he, he stepped down like in the 90s maybe, or
Early 90s, yes.
early 90s. So then, and when did he pass away? I know that he...
Just 2 years ago now?
2 years ago, so, okay. Well, and he just, your uncle was the epitome of the Albany machine, you might say, political machine. I mean, there was this, he was a confidant to Mayor Corning, right? And at least everything that I've read, could be wrong, I don't believe everything I read, but is that, do you have stories from when you were growing up about this era that has long since passed?
It's interesting. You mentioned Jack McEnany before we started taping, and he's a font of knowledge in terms of the history. Yeah. He's given me an interesting perspective on the history between Dan O'Connell and our grandfather, where that relationship formed. I think that was kind of the impetus for the the political realm of things, or that getting established, and it just kind of was a time when you helped out your neighbors and your friends, and that tradition just continued on.
Well, you think of the Kennedys, and then you think of the Bushes, and then you think of the Joyce family. and no one has ever been indicted, which is amazing. No, I'm just teasing, but it's in this day and age, it's a shame that that you have to celebrate not being indicted.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, you talk about how things have changed. From 70 years ago, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I was doing my background on the two of you, I noticed that how old are you, Andrew?
I'm 34.
You're 34. You were what, 5 or 6 years old when you were marching in the St. Patrick's Day Parade?
Very young, right.
With your dad.
Right.
I saw the picture online.
Right.
And you, I assume, marched in the parade
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
your...
We all had our turn at one point.
You all had your turn.
Yeah. We still do. My daughter marched this year at 5, so yeah.
Wow. And how old are you?
48.
48.
Yeah.
So, this is, your careers are just totally different, and your age, 15 years apart? If I did my math right? Yeah, okay, 14 years. So, you stayed with one company your entire professional life, National Grid, Niagara Mohawk. So tell us briefly about what you what your full-time job is, because being a county legislator is a part-time job.
Well, or a full-time job, depending on the week. Many weeks, depending on the topics too we discuss or that are on the agenda, it becomes a full-time job at times. But my full-time day job is I supervise the Eastern Regional Control Center. It's one of 3 control rooms in New York State. We monitor the Eastern Division of New York State. It's a 24/7 operation. We monitor all the storms, all the power flows. We do all the dispatching for any events, whether it's just an outage or emergency related. We do storm restoration. So we're there 24/7, trying to keep the lights on for Eastern New York.
Literally.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So how did you get into wanting to be in the electric field? I mean, it's not something you really study, you know.
No, I fell into it a little bit. I was in college at the time, and they had offered positions for summer help.
You went to Siena?
No, my father was
went-
at Siena. I was at Hudson Valley, and I finished up MBA at RPI after education. But at the time, they were offering summer help. I thought, I'd pay for college, and I'd go down and apply. Stood in a line with a lot of people, and I did get a summer job. At the end of the summer, they said, would you like to stay on? And I was planning on going back to college, and they said, well, you stay on, we'll pay for the college. Because that's what, large organizations did back then.
Yeah. That's terrific,
Yeah.
because, RPI is very expensive. I'm sure that was a relief for your parents.
Yeah, well, that was a stretch.
And how did, and your military background, I mean, you kind of wanted to do something else, but you really fell in love with the military.
Correct. Yeah, I got my communications degree from Marist. I interned at Fox 23 locally for about, for a summer, and I spent 4 years there as a producer, off and on in between military deployments and so on.
This desk comes from Fox 23.
Yeah, it looks very familiar.
Yeah.
Some good memories and some bad memories.
Oh, okay.
Some good days and bad days, but mostly good days there with the news that comes in. But a unique opportunity came along several years back to serve full-time in the National Guard, the response construct for the East Coast, whether it be man-made or natural disasters. And it was full-time. I put the uniform on every day for about 3.5 years, and it just it taught me a lot. I learned, working within a team, and a lot of travel and a lot of long days and nights, but it was truly worth it.
Mm. There's this whole thing about media and military and media, and there's some folks who are career military people who are also trying to promote the arts and to show that you can be in the arts and it's not something that you should be ashamed about.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, during my time in Iraq, and I wrote for my student newspaper at Marist. It's while I was doing my job, when I could, I wanted to focus on, hobbies and the like that I enjoyed, and kept me grounded and kept me focused and connected to what it's like to be home.
So what was it like growing up in a political family? Because I know your father was a family man. I mean, family always came first. When the family needed him, he was there. Politics was not first, but what was it like? What memories do you have, Ray? And
Well, serving with a lot of our colleagues now, they would tell stories that he had this ability to be at 10 places at once, and it was true. I mean, he had meetings every night. Back then, he was also chair of the Albany County Democratic Party. He was chair of the legislature, and it was a huge responsibility with that. They're almost like 2 additional full-time jobs in addition to his day job. But he was there for all of our sporting events. I remember, running track and cross country and my brother's baseball games, and I mean, everything that we had going on as a family of 5 kids. He managed to make time to be there, and he was always home for dinner, and there might be meetings before or after. I remember being very young, and that's kind of how Andrew and I fell into it. It's a family business in a way. You'd come down and pick us up at school, and he'd say, well, before we go home and have dinner, I just got to go down. We have a meeting tonight in the proposed Civic Center. And in high school, I was sitting in some of the Civic Center meetings when it was just an initial discussion between the legislature and Jim Coyne at the time. So, you wake up in the morning and a lot of kids are reading about how the Yankees and the Red Sox did. We're reading about how Dad battled the Republicans, and it was the family business, and at the time it was what we grew up, what our interests were in. So
What Republicans? What are you talking about?
there were a
There
few.
were?
Yeah, there were a few.
What was the, and the Civic Center, so the convention, Civic Center, Convention Center, whatever they want to call it, so you sat through that. Were you kind of bored, or were you kind of getting, because you were in high school, so
Right.
there's, Dad, I want to go track, I want to go out, or were you like riveted and saying?
I was. It was interesting to see it, and it was interesting to think that the city of Albany would have this civic center, because at the time we would go to, you'd have SPAC or the Glens Falls Civic Center. You'd have to travel. I mean, if you wanted to see any large national act, you'd have to travel to areas outside of Albany County, sometimes at great distances, and it was exciting to think that that could be in Albany County, and with the potential, that could follow. So.
And Andrew, what was your, besides St. Patrick's Day parades, what were your?
I think initially it was learning how to take phone messages, because the phone was ringing a lot, and it was an art that I tried to hone after several years, making sure that folks that did call him, that I had the right information, and he was able to get back to them. I knew that was important. The Albany County Democratic Committee's picnic, that was a huge event, every year. It's something that I look forward to. One of my earliest memories was this big, huge event. My dad was front and center, and he was responsible for a lot of it, the creation of it. And also, he would bring home the agenda after every committee meeting, every legislative meeting, and I would draw on them. Because back then they were only printed on one-sided, so I could use the agendas to draw on. So I was able to talk about artistry. I was able to hone my artistry then.
There you go.
And I think one of the few times my father actually said, took me aside and said, this is something you need to pay attention to, or I want you to remember this, is when, I don't remember the exact year, but when the party redid the bylaws, the Hickey Commission. There was a press event, and there was a big talk and a big discussion over what changes were being made, and I can remember now how important he felt that was, and how important it was to the history of the party, and he wanted me to know about it too, and to remember it. Just kind of sad to see how the organization has come along now, and there's almost a schism of sorts for the county committee to open it up to everybody.
Well, like you were saying, there were a few Republicans back then. Now there really isn't. So the Democrats just fight amongst themselves, and now there's a schism. You know, and if you had a Republican, you should want a Republican Party, because that'll unite the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Yes.
They have a common goal. It's like in the Middle East.
Right.
So, how old were you when your father passed away?
I was young.
I know.
13 years ago, so I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Mid to early 20s when he passed.
That's so sad. Really.
Yeah, I was. He was diagnosed with esophageal cancer around the same time that I learned I was going to be deploying to Iraq for the first time.
No.
We kind of had a joke amongst ourselves that I probably could have pulled some strings. He could have pulled some strings to get me out, but we both decided, we were going to have our own individual fight, and we were going to do it, and he would have his fight, and I would have mine. I was extremely fortunate. In the middle of the deployment, my sister Amy was getting married, and my brother here paid for my plane ticket home to go to the wedding, and had a great time with my family. Saw my father healthy, and of course, a couple months later, I got a Red Cross message while I was in Iraq, and the cancer had metastasized, and I had to get home.
Yeah.
He was a different person when I came home, but it wasn't a very happy homecoming, but I was fortunate for that opportunity.
To see him and spend the last days with him,
You can't really put a dollar amount on that. It was really,
you're right.
really thankful for that.
And that's something that it touched me when, because he was such a genuine and honest man, and I just don't see that very often. And he didn't disappoint me when, so I just, have fond memories. I do.
Thank you.
What are some of your memories of your dad, and what his legacy? I mean, legacy is more than just a name on a building.
Oh yeah, well it was being, and I hear it because I actually served the district that he served, and you hear some of the stories, and your father had done this, your father had done that, but I kind of recall, because I remember, and Andrew too, and all of our brother and sisters, we we were in the car with him. A lot of times it would be a Saturday morning, and hey, we got to go before I drop you off at the game. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to. He was always on the run, always helping other people, and that was the thing. And Beck, that's the key to success, is just being there for your constituents, and he was always there. I mean, like Andrew
And he
said.
instilled that in both of you, I take it. I mean, I don't have much of a track record for you in the county legislature, but I presume that you're very customer friendly and voter, like to help anyone that you can at any time.
Right, public service wasn't something that he really encouraged for me to go
okay.
into. He wanted me to do whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
But after he passed away, I hear stories every single day. People that recognize me, and he did this for me or my family member, and that's important. And it's something I was immediately drawn to, because if I can make my children half as proud of me as I was of him, I would have been successful, regardless of what happens. And like you said, all that is about being honest and upfront, and being accountable to the people you represent, and good or bad.
Well, you continue that success. What do you've been in the legislature, you said, what, since
2004.
So
yeah.
it's, about 12 years now?
Right.
3 terms?
Right.
You're going to continue for as long as possible?
Right, or until my wife or daughter say that's enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're staying where you don't have ambitions to go higher, and
Honestly, I can say I don't. It means the seat means that much to me, because it was a seat my father held for 35 plus years, and his father before him, and I just can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be. So
well, that's a relief to a lot of people who know that you won't be running
Right.
for something else.
Yeah, the seat means
in
a lot to me.
politics, that means a lot to a lot of other people that you want to stay put. All right, cross that name off.
Plus, there's candidates better groomed for higher office.
Oh, isn't that nice? So, and you're in a different section of the city of Albany that also borders Bethlehem.
Right.
Is that a district that you know a lot about? Did you recently move there, or
I moved out there about 6 years ago, and I'm learning more about it. I definitely got a good education last year during the primary. Was up and down the streets, almost every day, and not only learning a lot about Bethlehem, but learning a lot about the city's first ward. A lot of good.
First ward, all the way down.
Yeah. So we got North Bethlehem, Sunderland's in the first ward. So it's great places, great people, great families, and a history there. And
But a huge difference of socioeconomic.
it's, if Ray will excuse me, I'll say it's the best district in Albany County. It's just such a diverse district. You go from these huge mansions in
Right.
Sunderland's to 2-family homes on Southern Boulevard,
Right.
where some individuals don't speak English. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm trying to kind of learn
To
as much as I
learn
can.
what, Spanish, or
A little bit, sure.
they're not speaking Farsi.
No, not yet. Not right now, anyways. Not this time.
So by the way, thank you for your service.
My pleasure.
I should always say that to veterans, and do you still get deployed, or do you still?
Yeah, I'm still an active duty National Guardsman, so there's always that opportunity or that chance where it would be in the community here or overseas that we could get called again.
So you have a certain bond with our county executive, don't you?
Yes, he also served in Iraq. He was also an Iraq War veteran. Yeah.
So your conference, Democratic conference, the county legislature, going to deploy you when there's a rift, and maybe you could have this talk with him, and
they haven't
you're
yet.
you're his buds, and the.
I've found that the lines of communication and the networking is all there. I mean, everyone's just a phone call away. They don't necessarily need me to do any lobbying. I mean, he's very accessible and.
Well, I'm sure he's accessible, but you have a certain speak that
Right.
You have a certain way of bonding military guys.
Well, they haven't yet, but we'll see. We'll see.
So, do you have? I know that you're just there a few months. But is there aspirations for you for something else? Or?
Possibly, but honestly, there's such an opportunity now.
Well, you should
to
stay
learn.
there for at least a couple of terms, and before you go anywhere. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. Well, going into it, I thought I was going to be a hard
2 cents.
charger and get things done and work in the community and had a couple of initiatives that I wanted to work on, but my mother told me something that is kind of ringing true as the months go on, is that you kind of have to pause and you have to listen and you have to learn before you can be really effective.
The youngest one always gets that speech.
Well, I think my father
I'm
was
the
funny.
youngest,
Yeah.
and it seems like
I'll be far more effective if I slow
Just
down a
listen.
little bit right now and,
Yeah.
and listen and learn and figure things out. And
That's been passed down through the generations, because when my father was first elected, my grandfather told him, you sit there one term and keep your mouth shut because you have a lot to learn. Second term, you can speak out. And then I remember my father telling that to a lot of the new legislators coming in, saying, you've got a lot to learn. You sit there, at least for a year, read your agenda.
And I know, like, there are so many people who would say, what, you telling me, old man? What
Yeah,
you telling me?
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
You're telling me what?
Oh, I won't name names, but I witnessed him telling some people that had that exact reaction.
It's not surprising. And
Yeah.
so, Ray, what would you like people to know about you and your background, what you're doing now in the county legislature that maybe I didn't bring up, or that you want people to know about that wouldn't be obvious, let's say?
It's just the history, the family history. It's a little outdated. I feel a little bit like a dinosaur. I'm sure Andrew does too. But it's like Andrew mentioned earlier. It's about what we were raised around. It's you take care of the people, your neighbors, and your constituents. But also the county workers. There's some things we're looking at now. Some things that have recent things that have come up that we'll be introducing legislation on shortly to protect county workers. But it's just
From what?
we'll just
Protect them from what?
well we can discuss at a later date. They're still being drafted.
Okay.
But we
You're still trying to think of what they need protection from?
no, it's not protection. It's just some contracts have not gone the way we thought they would go.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean labor contracts?
No, healthcare.
No, healthcare
Yeah.
contracts. Oh, okay.
We'll discuss that later, I guess.
Okay.
But aside from that, it's like Andrew said, it's taking care of your neighbors and understanding their needs, bringing those needs into the neighborhood. There's a lot of things the county provides, a lot of services the county provides. There's such a diversity in the city of Albany across the whole entire city, like Andrew showed just in his district alone. Needs for social services and health care, and the services that Albany County provides are they're wide ranging, and it's important to get those services into the communities and to your neighbors that need them the most. There's 7 neighborhood associations in my district that I try to attend all the meetings, and you hear it's different needs in every neighborhood.
Do you take your children along with you?
No, it gets too late at night. Usually they run from 7 to 9 p.m. and I brought her to the last one, and it didn't go so well. So I try to avoid that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, do you bring your children to parades or bring them
If
to...
she's up for it, I ask her.
You have one?
Just one.
You have one, I'm saying them, and, okay.
Yeah.
I always think of you guys having big families,
Yeah.
just...
Yeah, no, I started late,
Okay. And how many children do you have, Andrew?
I have 2.
2.
We have a
You
3-year-old,
started younger, yeah.
soon to be 3-year-old, and we have
Oh, that's right, Colt.
Colton and
and
Willow.
Willow, you just born recently.
Should be a month and a week.
Oh, mazel tov to
Thank you.
That's right, I remember reading that.
Thank you.
Okay, so why'd you choose Willow?
It's just, my wife and I both liked it. It just, we felt it would, somehow we sensed her personality and the way she was going to be, and it's just a pretty, free-spirited and nice name. So I liked
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
So, this is something that you're, are you planning, or do you think you would bring your kids to? They're cute kids
Yeah,
in the pictures.
the
Especially Colt, just...
Yeah, we'll see. It all depends on the situation. He's got a little bit of the 3-year-old has a little bit of my personality. He's a little restless and likes to express himself. So I don't know if a meeting setting would be good for him, but
Keep him away from the gorilla cages.
we'll see. We'll see. Right.
No. We're helicopter parents, I'm afraid. I don't think our kids are going to fall into a gorilla cage.
So it says here that, that your uncle was more like a grandfather to you. Is that?
I think that's something that I was probably quoted as saying, at some point or another.
Yeah.
Our Uncle Ray was, at least for me, my oldest uncle. So I didn't know my grandfather very well.
Right.
So he was the oldest uncle and kind of unofficially, kind of on the side, kind of served that role a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I get so confused with Ray Jr., Ray Sr., and then
Third.
and then you're the third. Yeah, but then you have Ray Sr. was the real grandfather, but Ray Jr. was
The
your
oldest uncle.
you know, you
The
were
oldest
just-
of the 12.
Right, but your surrogate. Yeah, you would say, you know, he was
Kind of by default, you would say.
surrogate grandfather.
Right.
You know, so I get all confused at that point. Doesn't take much.
Yeah.
So, and you graduated from Bishop McGinn High School.
Right.
You didn't go to, did you go to public school?
Christian Brothers Academy
Christian
when it was in
Brothers.
Albany.
So, do you not like the public schools in Albany? How come you?
My daughter goes to a public school in Albany.
Hey, there
She
you
goes to
go.
Montessori Magnet, and we're very happy with it. I think it's the finest
But
school in the capital
at the
district.
time, what was the issue with you going to private school?
My father went to Christian Brothers Academy, and I think they just thought it might be a good fit for me at the time. Maybe they thought I needed discipline. I don't know.
Discipline,
Maybe some
okay.
military. I don't
And it was
know.
really him who needed it. No.
It was a good fit, though. I enjoyed it.
Did the two of you get along growing up, or is it 14 years too far apart where
We
you
did,
were?
but it was quite a span. You know, I think I was out with my friends in high school while he was still growing up, and I
Right.
think we're closer now than we were when we were growing up.
Yeah, my brother's 4 years older than me, so every time I started, like junior high, he was in high school, I started high school, he was in college, I started college, he graduated, you
Yeah.
know, and we always missed that overlap, you know,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it was even 4 years, now I'm thinking 14 years between the two of you, and, you know. So are you feeling more of a kinship with your older brother? Or?
Absolutely. I depend on him a lot more than he realizes. He's been, at least in terms of the legislature, he's been there long, and he makes it all very easy. When I'm struggling with a decision or which way to go, one way or another, I make sure to at least check with him and get his perspective on the issue. And I'm just really fortunate, you know, to have him.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. There's no sibling rivalry.
No, well, if there's something we disagree on, it's usually behind closed doors. But but no, it's great having him over there. I look over and I see him over there now. I'm like, okay,
You
it's
sense of pride?
pride. Oh, definitely, very
Yeah.
proud. Oh, I was proud of him a long time ago when he, you know, military service and everything. It's you know, it's hard to stop seeing him as that 14-year-old kid anymore.
Isn't
'cause
it?
He's such a tremendous man now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is tough to see him,
Yeah.
even though he acts like a 14. No, I'm just
No,
teasing you.
absolutely not. Very proud.
I want to see you get up and really give the legislature a piece of your mind one of these days.
Okay.
But you're only there a few months. You got to wait a year, and then you can do
Well,
it. And,
Right.
That's
I'll
what,
come
that's
to-
what Grandpa would say.
I'll
but-
come
have
back
to-
next year.
You have to level that expectation along with the expectation of your constituents. They want you to be vocal.
So what's the worst part of the job for you guys? I mean, we talked about all the happiness, all the positive stuff. What's the worst part?
I'll keep it short, and Andrew can chime in. For him, it might be different perspectives, but for me, it's really the politics sometimes. Sometimes really good, common sense legislation never sees the light of day, or you know, there might be some, you know, just the politics that are at play. I tell people every day, it's like, well, what's it like? And I said, you know, I thought I knew what it was like because we grew up in it. I thought I knew what this was all about. I jumped into it, and you really have no idea until you get involved. But all you got to do is you just got to keep on doing what you think. My father would say, if you know, I always thought if I thought it was the right thing to do, then I always could sleep at night. So you know, whether I end up upsetting somebody, it's as long as I feel like it's the right thing to do. That's the course I take, and I'm sure Andrew has his own.
Yeah, well, for the few months, you living the dream yet?
A little bit. I'll absolutely agree with Ray. You know, I think there are some folks that get drawn to politics or public service because they like to fight, and it's just within their personality, and that aspect of it is very unfortunate, and it's a bit of a grind. And it's something I've experienced not only in the legislature, but on the Democratic committee. I think along with that, you know, time away from home is never fun.
Well, not with youngsters like, you know, young children. Like.
Right.
But what about the, you know, the Republican side of the aisle? Do you, I mean, as staunch Democrats and as blue runs through your blood, you know, is there any way that you ever think that Republicans have anything good to add to this process?
I don't know if I voted in favor of Republican resolutions because, again, I thought it was the right thing to do. It's not always party lines. If someone makes a good common sense proposal, I'll support it.
And
I like to think that I ran on bipartisanship as part of my platform when I
okay.
ran. And
There you go.
I don't think I was selected to go in and vote on party line only. I remember our
That's
father.
different from your other generations.
Well, I remember our father worked very closely with Republican legislators, and there was a lot of progress.
Mhm.
You can't let personalities get in the way of doing good things and good legislation.
So the axiom is there's a day for politicking and there's a day for governing. And after Election Day, you go with governing, and 3 months or 2 months before Election Day is politicking.
Yeah. My father was legislator. He chaired the legislature. Don't forget, the county executive was Republican, like Hoblock.
Yeah.
And they were able to do many great things. And he said that, he was able to work with Mike.
I got to tell you, Republicans don't think of Mike Hoblock as being any more
Well-
than a Republican in name only,
Yeah.
because they really feel that he's, to some extent sold out the office.
Yeah.
So that's just from my inside track at the Republican committee, that's, got to tell you that. So, all right, well, listen, it was a real pleasure having the both of you on the show. You're just two of the gems in this
thank you.
county legislature, and I really mean that. So keep up the good work. I'm going to follow your progress. Your district is very close to mine.
Okay.
You were almost my county legislator, but I heard that you wanted the block over because you didn't want me in your district. No, I'm just teasing you. So,
We moved the lines a little bit.
but anyway, all the best.
Thank you.
And continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you.